car, SUV, or truck, guess what? You're in luck. Frontier Motors is down the street. Got the best deals that can't be beat. Don't overpay, come in today. Doing business the old-fashioned way. Frontier, we got the right price. Frontier, we'll treat you mighty nice. Frontier Motors, low overhead country.
And I am pleased to announce to you, it's not exactly a surprise, we have the owner of that establishment here in the studio, ready, willing, and certainly more than able to take any phone inquiries from you. If you want to get the price of a car or a truck or an SUV that you were thinking of buying or selling or trading in, you would give us a call at 478-3116, 478-3116, and then I will connect you with Iven Streckel, the owner of Frontier Motors, the star of this edition of Talk at 10 here on News Talk 1370 WCOA. Good morning, sir.
The star. I like that.
Oh, yeah, the star.
Good job.
Yeah.
Great introduction. And this is the Frontier Motor Show. We are also videotaping this for our Blab TV customers. So if you're watching this is not a live show. But this show on 1370 Talk Radio has been going on our 21st year. And what we've been talking about for 20-some years is that there is a car dealership in Pensacola that's here to help you make sure that when you're in the market that you don't get ripped off. And that could be a couple different ways. Number one, to make sure you're not buying a bad car, a car perhaps that has a bad history report or maybe a gray, shady history report, let's put it that way. And also to make sure that you don't pay too much for that car. And we usually tell you not to, if you're looking at a car at a particular dealership or a private individual, don't tell us what they're asking. Let us tell you what we can sell you a car like that for. And that's going to either help you get a deal wherever you found that car, or if they won't do that, perhaps we can get your business. As of this morning, we had 348 cars in stock, which is actually a little bit low on inventory. But normally, when you're looking at a particular car, maybe your neighbor's selling a car, maybe another car dealership has a car you're interested in, because we have 300 and almost 50 cars in stock, maybe we had that car on our lot, very similar to it, so we can use our pricing to help you make sure that the vehicle you're looking at is priced fairly. Now, we could do this for not just people in Pensacola. We have a lot of military coming through that end up moving out or getting transferred. We get calls from all over the nation asking us our advice. So don't feel bad that you're wasting our time when you call Frontier Motors and ask questions about a particular car at another car dealership or maybe a private individual has it. That's what we do because we feel that the car that you're interested in right now is probably not the only car you're ever going to buy. So if we help you get a deal and help you buy that car wherever you found it, perhaps the next time around, you'll buy from me. I had a gentleman that I know called me this morning, and he said that he found a car on Mannheim Auction. He has a dealer friend of his, not just me, but a different dealer friend that said that he would get him the car, and he was asking me questions about how to go about making sure that he doesn't get ripped off by giving this particular dealer the cash first. The dealer goes to the auction to buy the car for him, and then he brings the car back, and then he inspects it. And, of course, I gave him the advice on what I thought I would do. Number one, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't give a dealer, money to go buy me a car. I would ask that dealer to go buy that car, and then I'll pay him once I inspect it. And that's how we do it at Frontier Motors. So I'm a prime example that if you stopped in, you said, hey, Ivan, I want a 2016 Volkswagen Beetle. I want less than 10,000 miles, and I want a black one. I want it to be automatic transmission with leather. The first thing I would do is do the research and let you know this is how much I can get you one of these Beetles for. The second thing I would ask you is, what are you driving currently? And let me give you a price on your car, because you're probably either going to sell it or you're going to trade it. So I want to make sure that I evaluate the car to make sure I can give you the proper dollar amount, so that's not going to be a sticky point. The third thing I'm going to ask you is, have you ever driven a Beetle? Do you know you like it? Because I hate to go spend $20,000 for a car, for example, to bring it back to find out you don't like that car, because we're buying that specifically for you. But at Frontier Motors, our locate program works like this, and it works on a handshake, not a signature and not a deposit. Just your word that as long as I come through with the proper merchandise and it passes your inspection, that way we have a deal. And this particular gentleman said that the dealer he was going through was asking him to pay for the car first, sight unseen. I find that a little bit difficult, especially the fact this was a 7-year-old car. It was located in Maryland. I'd be a little bit nervous about getting a car from Maryland down here to Florida to find out that perhaps it has rust on the vehicle, or because there are so many bad roads up north because of the winter that there's a lot of potholes, and sometimes that'll wear out a car prematurely, even a 7-year-old car, which isn't really that old. But I would be very hesitant to pay for a car without seeing it. So getting back to what we do at Frontier Motors, a couple things. I'm going to let you know how we do our book values. The books that we use are different than what you might find on the internet, which when you Google used car values on the internet, the first thing that comes up is a Edmunds and then a Kelley Blue Book. The third one is an NADA guide. Now, the guidebook on the internet's a little bit different than the ones that we use at the dealership. Now, we're not trying to bamboozle anybody. The reason we use a different guidebook, is called an official guidebook, is because that's what our credit unions and our bankers and a lot of our local insurance companies use as far as valuating a car, as far as book values. Now, again, there might be a difference between book value and reality. I've had this happen plenty of times where the books were highly exaggerated over what reality was. In other words, if you used the book to buy a car, you'd be paying way too much. Every once in a while, and I always use the example of a Jeep Wrangler, especially an older Wrangler that might have a low book value, and they actually sell more than book value. So how do you know if the book values are high or low? Well, you stop in or you call Frontier Motors and get our opinion on what I would consider reality. And reality is, the way that I get reality is I can go right into the auction reports and find out what a particular car is selling for right now. And this morning, the person that called me that was buying this car out of Maryland said that he was buying a 2010 Challenger with 27,000 miles on it, and he was paying $14,500 for it. So the first thing I got online, and I actually told him, that's a pretty good price. Wholesale on the car is around $14,000. You're buying it for $14,500. Heck, that doesn't even pay the shipping from Maryland. So that's a really good price on a car. I always wonder about that when you can get a good price on a car that has 27,000 miles on it. I wonder what's wrong with it. Retail was $16,500. He's buying it for $14,500. No, I'm not saying that you need to pay retail, but on this particular car, after doing the research, that car should be bringing around $16,000, and a dealer selling it to him for $14,500. So again, very skeptical. Beware and get the vehicle inspected before you purchase. Don't forget now, that's a 7-year-old car, so all warranties are void. And one of the things that I told him is that when you buy that car at the auction and it comes back to the dealership, if the air conditioning doesn't work and it costs $1,500 to fix it, that's $1,500 out of your pocket. Because they don't guarantee the air conditioning is going to work. They don't guarantee the transmission is going to drift smoothly or that the engine's even working properly. And that's why I never buy a car sight unseen unless it's a car that might be a 2017 with 50 miles. And I'll give you an example. I bought a Mitsubishi Mirage out of the Fort Lauderdale auction last week. It has 20 miles on it, and it's completely guaranteed, and it was rated a 5 out of 5. The auction, I don't know why they don't rate them, the normal worldly scale that we all know is from a 0 to 10. Of course, 10 being perfect. Well, the auction decided to change that, and they go from 0 to 5, 5 being perfect. And any car that I would buy at an auction would have to be rated a 4.5 or above, which makes it pretty much as perfect as you can get for a car that's technically used. Now, this Mirage has 20 miles on it, so even though it's a brand new car, I am not a Mitsubishi franchise dealership, so I do have to sell this vehicle as a used car. Pete Moore is the local franchise dealer. And I always tell people that if you're going to do business, try to keep the money in Pensacola. Pete Moore happens to be the Mitsubishi dealer, and I would always urge you to go to that dealer rather than go outside of town. And of course, where we come in at Frontier Motors is giving you a bottom line price and comparing it to a brand new one. And if I can't save you any money or enough money, I'm the first one to tell you, go buy a brand new one. But I do a lot of research before I buy a car like this to make sure that my bottom line should beat their bottom line. So I will give you a bottom line. When I say bottom line, I'm talking about taxes, title, doc fee, tag transfer, your trade-in if you have a trade-in. If you owe money on the trade-in, we add that back in. We give you a total figure that you've got to go to the bank with, or if you're writing a check, what do you have to write the check for? And then you compare it to the new car dealership. And a lot of times, according to Consumers Reports, we can save you so much money it would make your head spin. Last year, in April's edition on page 21, Consumers Reports finally put into writing what we've been talking about for 20 years, and that is that the first year depreciation is 27% on a new car. That means if you bought a new car today and you drove it off the lot, next year it's worth $9,200 less if you were to trade it, Of course, if you keep your car, it doesn't really matter. But let's say you don't like the car. These cars that I buy with really low miles, and I'll give you an example when I talk about cars that are used cars that somebody else is taking depreciation on. A Toyota Highlander with 300 miles on it, a Mazda 3 with 700 miles, a Ford Escape with 800 miles, a Camaro with 1,200 miles, a Honda Accord with 1,300 miles, a Buick Encore with 1,400 miles, and an Infiniti QX50 with 1,700 miles. These cars are very low mileage cars, and we have 150 cars on the lot with less than 15,000 miles on it. We are the alternative to new, and the reason I do this is because I have proof now. The Consumer Report says that in 1 year, the average depreciation, not all cars depreciate $9,200. Some cars, like the Jaguar, Don, we just finally sold the Jaguar. Remember we talked about it on last week's
Hooray!
show. I drove a Jaguar up to the show here. It had 2,000 miles on it. I've been using that example. I was driving that car, Don. I'm a little guy, so I like little sporty cars.
Right.
And this is a car that was a $93,000 car, and we sold it the other day for $67,000.
Wow.
Now, that's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. There's not a lot of people buying a $67,000 car, but I'll tell you what. I feel sorry for the poor guy that bought it brand new 8 months ago for $93,000. You know, if you go to the Jaguar dealer, you don't get a big discount. You can't. They don't have rebates and incentives. I mean, maybe you can buy that $93,000 car, and if you work them enough, maybe buy it for $90,000. We sold the car for $67,000. It had 2,000 miles on it. And that's an extreme example of what I'm talking about, that if you're going to save money, stop at a dealership like Frontier Motors. There's not any other dealer in town that I know of that has the type of inventory that we do that's an independent dealership. I mean, you got the Sandy Stansings and Pete Moores and Bob Tylers that have good used car departments. I never say anything bad about them. But as far as an independent lot that has between 300 and 400 cars sitting on the lot, and we specialize in low mileage cars. Now, the new car dealerships take a lot of cars in trade, and they don't have any control over their trade-ins. You know, if somebody comes in with a $75,000 mile car, they're going to take it in trade-in. But what I do is we take trade-ins also. I normally try to keep 50 to 60 cars on the lot for less than $10,000. But when I go out and buy cars, I specialize in buying these really low mileage cars and taking advantage of what Consumers Report says, that the first year somebody's going to lose $9,200. And I was using an example, even if I made $3,000 on the car, which is doing pretty good, that pays the bills.
Right.
You still save $6,200. If I marked it up $2,000, you'd still save $9,200. You'd still save $7,200. And the tax on $7,200 is another $700 or $800. Our dock fees are less. We pay more for trade-ins. You could end up walking out and buying a car that's 1 year old for $10,000 less than a brand new one. Now, not on a Toyota Corolla. A Corolla is probably a $19,000 car. You're not going to save $7,000 on one with 100 miles on, but you might save $2,000 or $3,000. To me, that's still enough to make most people happy. And let's give you a bottom line price. And every once in a while, I'll run into the customer and says, I don't care how much you save me, Ivan. I have spent enough money on cars, and I am going to spend one more time. I had a person in the other day that was doing a retirement present for themselves, and they saved for years and years, and they're going to, no matter what I had, they're going to buy brand new. I don't care if I had a car with 500 miles on it that could save you $5,000. He said, I'm buying a brand new one. And I told my wife I'd buy a brand new car. I'm not going against that. But what I did, I was able to help him make sure that he gets the proper dollar amount for his trade-in. And folks, you don't know why you get a low appraisal. It's not just because dealers are trying to rip you off. People always think that, well, I got one over there, and I did the Edmunds and the Kelly Blue Book, and they said my car was worth $20,000. I went to the dealer and they offered me $14,000. Now, it might not because they're trying to rip you off. They might just think your car's only worth $14,000 because they've had bad experience with a car like yours. Or I had this happen with the Lexus last year, where a customer came in and said, I went to the Lexus dealership over in Mobile. They didn't hardly give me nothing for my car. They stopped at Frontier Motors first. I told them their car was worth, let's say it was $25,000. I figured what the figures. They go over there and the dealer says, well, I'm not really interested in your car. And he says, why not? Well, I've got 13 of them.
Yeah.
On the used car lot.
So
I really don't need yours. And they
market forces have an impact, obviously.
Yeah, they do, Don. They were telling this person who wanted to buy a brand new Lexus to go ahead and sell your car yourself. Well, boom, there goes their sale. Because how's that going to work? How do you coordinate that? Do you ever try to sell your car on Craigslist? It's not fun, especially in the wintertime when it gets dark at 4:30 at night and people want to come over to your house and test drive your Lexus. And then you're worried about, well, is the check any good? Especially if you take a personal check, is it any good? Is it going to bounce? And then you have the other people that say, well, hey, I got a couple $1,000s down. Will you finance the rest? Well, you don't want to do that. Or you've got the person that comes in and they know you're asking $25,000 for the car, and they'll offer you $18,000, and it's not any fun. Or they've got a trade-in that they've got to sell first. That's why you bring the car to Frontier Motors. Let me write you a check for it. And I'm going to be really fair because I'm going to do the research and tell you this is wholesale, this is retail, and we normally will go somewhere in the middle. Wholesale is going to be too low. Retail is going to be too much because we're not going to give you retail because then I can't make any money. But I'll be really fair with you and you'll be surprised, pleasantly surprised, especially if it's a car that we can use. And we'll pay you good money for it, usually a lot more. We had the example that Don read on the air 2 weeks ago about not a dealer, but a customer that wrote me a testimonial. I didn't bring it today, Don, else I'll have you read it again, about a truck that he took over to CarMax and that we paid $2,000 more than CarMax. And it wasn't because we were stealing it. I thought I was giving him a fair value. Mm-hmm. It's because they were trying to buy it a little below wholesale.
Right.
And I was paying over wholesale. And that's what the difference is. And he thought, CarMax has a really good buying. They do half their advertising is spent on We Buy Cars. Matter of fact, I think they have a purchasing center in, I think it's Birmingham, where all that center does, they don't sell any cars. They just buy cars. So we do that at Frontier Motors. We've got 5 appraisers. It's very frustrating to go to a dealership that advertises We Buy Cars, and you go there and the buyer's not there because he's at the auction. And the used car appraiser only appraises trade-ins. So if you got a car to sell, there's not anybody there. We make sure that we have at least 5 people there all the time that can buy cars. So that way you can come in and go out. And you'll know within 15 minutes what we're going to write you a check for. And sometimes, let's say I offer you $10,000 for your car, and you say, hey, Ivan, I really want more like around 11 or 11.5, but we feel that as far as writing a check, that's too much. I might still put it on consignment for you and sell it for you for $11,000. I normally give you about $1,000, maybe $1,500 more on consignment because I don't have to tie up my cash. I don't have to worry about if the car is going to be devalued next month if the books drop. You're taking that risk, so I'll give you more money for that risk. And we're very successful with consignments. We don't mark them up more than any other car. I just make less on them because I'm giving you a little bit more. I'm going to make a little less, but a little bit is better than nothing at all. Plus, we make a friend. We help you get rid of that car. We give you more than wholesale. We do all the work. We'll take a trade and we'll finance it. We'll advertise it. We'll take the risk, and you get the money. So everybody's happy. And when we make that friend, that means the next time you're in the market, you're going to buy from us. And it's interesting how many people that put their cars on consignment with us after the car is sold end up buying a car from us. I'd say it's at least 50%. 70% of our customers that come into the dealership have already heard about us. They've been sent into us. They're either repeat or referral customers. We very rarely, we have about 30% that have never heard about us. And those 30%, a lot of them are military transients that have never, that just moved to Pensacola, mm-hmm. and they haven't heard our advertising and they haven't bought a car. But if you ask around, folks, where should I buy a good pre-owned car? And you're going to hear the words Frontier Motors over and over and over. One of the reasons is because we really want to make sure that when we sell a car to our customers, that we sell a good car. I don't like complaints. I don't like having a customer come back and say, oh my goodness, I bought this car and 2 days later the air conditioning stopped working. And then, of course, when that happens, what do? Do you take care of the customer? Do you help them? Or do you tell them, hey, I bought a used car, I'm sorry. We warranty our cars for 90 days when we sell them. And there's a reason for that, because we want to make sure that when you're getting our product, that you're not buying it as is. We put a drivetrain warranty on, which means engine, transmission, transaxle is warranted. If you go to a used car dealership or even a new car dealership that sells used cars, and their cars are marked as is, the first thing I would do is walk away. Because if they're not confident enough in their product to at least put a 30-day, much less a 90-day warranty on them, I would walk out. Or the one thing I would ask, if you like the car you're looking at, is why can't I get a warranty? And why do you have to pay for warranty? Obviously, if you want a 5-year bumper-to-bumper warranty, you can buy that. That's not going to be thrown in. But even if you don't buy a warranty, you should have somebody stand behind that car for at least 30 to 90 days to make sure you don't buy a bad one. And that's where we come at Frontier Motors. And there's 103, well, you probably don't know, but I've got it right here. in registrations. There's 103 used car dealerships in Pensacola. I take that back. That was last month. Right now there's 105, and there's 21 new car dealerships. So you can shop till you're blue in the face. But stop at Frontier Motors before you go to those other dealerships to make sure that if you're buying a brand new car, that you don't pay too much. The reason I say that is because I have the invoices on all new cars. I subscribe to the New Car Cost Guide, which gives me dealer cost on any car out there. It's called an invoice. Everybody's heard of that. And I can tell you what a dealer pays for a car because that will help you determine what you're going to offer that dealer. The second thing while you're here, I'm going to tell you what I can give you for your trade-in. And if you're not buying from me and I give you $15,000 and you're buying from the dealer up the road and they're giving you less than that and you're spending money with them, I always say that I think the dealer that you're spending money with should give you more money for your car than us if you're not buying from us. And the reason we advertise this, of course, is because when you come on the lot, I'm taking your car, I'm going to drive it around the block. It's going to take 10 to 15 minutes for me to give you a figure. While you're waiting for me to give you that figure or one of our managers to give you that figure, you might trip across the car that you really like. For example, 2015 Chevy Camaro LT, bright red with 1,200 miles on it. So what if you were going to go to either Sandy Sansing or Pete Moore, our local dealers, and buy a brand new one? Wouldn't it be nice to compare a new one with 1,200 miles on it and see what's the difference? I'm not telling you not to buy a new one. I'm just using it that what if I could save you so much money that you could send your kid to college? There's a lot of things you can do if you're saving $10,000 on a 2-year-old car. The 17s are out. This is a 15. But this is a 15 with 1,200 miles on it. That's not normal. A 15 normally would have 30,000 miles. The average person drives 15,000 miles a year according to NADA. So a 2-year-old car should have 30,000 miles on it. Consumers Reports also put into writing of something I've been talking about for a long time. Now, I didn't know this particular example, but Consumers Reports in this year's June edition, said the median price on a recent model used car when purchased from a used car dealer was $18,000, and that same car bought from a new car dealer on their lot was $21,000. So they're saying that a new car dealership normally charges $3,000 more than an independent like Frontier Motors. Now, I'm not sure if that's true in Pensacola. It might be true in New York and Chicago and San Francisco and Miami, where a new car dealer, to purchase a new car dealership, there was one in Manhattan that sold a couple years ago for $60 million. So you can imagine their overhead might be a little bit more than Frontier Motors as an independent dealer. Now, in Pensacola, even there are some beautiful mausoleums on 29, and sometimes when I talk about that, I'm not trying to make fun of them. I'm more jealous than anything else. I don't know if you saw the new Audi dealership going up. It's absolutely stunning. It's gorgeous. I'm jealous. But yet I don't want the overhead. I want to be able to sell our cars for less money. And I think that if I had a $4 or $5 million building and financed that building and insured that building and maintained that building and the taxes on that building might make my overhead go a lot more than it is right now, which means that I have to charge a little bit more for my cars. And that's why consumers, I like this, that they actually put it in writing. This is not something I'm coming up with. And they're saying it's a $3,000 difference. I think it's more like $1,000, maybe $1,500. But if you can save $1,000 to $1,500 by coming to Frontier Motors right around the block, we're only 2 blocks from Car City, it might be worth it to seek us out. We don't have any other dealerships next to us. So we're kind of in our own little world right there.
And the street with, 5 or 6 names there.
Yeah,
it's Beverly Parkway. It's your place, but it's Brent Lane on the other side of 29. It's Michigan Avenue past the railroad tracks. This is the Frontier Motor Show on News Talk 1370 WCOA. Iven Streckel will be here for another 4.5 minutes. Then he'll be back at the dealership at 436-8080, 436-8080, or go to their website or go by the dealership. He'd be happy to speak with you.
That's right. And the dealership's open until 6 o'clock at night and 4 o'clock on Saturdays. And we really do things a little bit differently. I know one of the reasons that I get from customers that come in that don't buy a car very often, I always ask them, well, you obviously can afford it after I get to know them, know what they do. And some of these guys are double dippers. They're retired from 2 different, military retired, police retired, and they've got plenty of income coming in, but they're driving a 13-year-old car with 120,000 miles on it. I said, why aren't you in a new car? They said, because we hate buying a new car. Just hate it. Just detest it. I'm not going to do it. And I get that over and over again. I get it in our publications. Consumers Reports says it also, that people say that they would rather get a root canal than go shopping in a new car dealership. So what we did 21 years ago when we started Frontier Motors, we said, let's do this a little bit differently. Let's give our customers a price list. Every car that comes in, we price them immediately. And we put them in alphabetical order, and we print out our prices daily because our inventory changes daily. And when you come in, we can actually hand you a price list because that's the biggest question you're going to have is how much is it? How many miles are on it? What's the Carfax say? So our salespeople unlock every car every morning, and we put the Carfax and the auto check in the glove box. Those are two largest providers of history reports in the world that I know of. We put them right in the glove box so you can view them. You don't have to ask for them. We're not going to try to hide anything. If it's got a bad one, it's going to be bad because we'll take a car and trade. I had one the other day that we took and trade a car that was a Ford Fusion and had severe accident reported on the Carfax report. We didn't hide that. We got the car way cheaper than normal because we're going to disclose it. There's nothing wrong with the car. The accident was 7 years ago. The person had put on 50,000 miles since the accident. There was no issues with it. I just priced the car accordingly. It was about $4,000 less than it should have been because the Carfax is what they call bad. Bad being an accident. The other thing that would be bad is a salvage title, flood damage, odometer problems, lemon law buybacks. All those things are bad. There are dealerships that sell those cars. We never buy a car like that, but we'll take one in trade. Don, if you had a lemon law buyback, I'd still take it and trade. I just wouldn't give you a lot of money for it.
Right, yeah, because it does impact the value.
It does impact the value of the car. So we don't buy those cars, but we do take them trade. The main thing is that we do differently is we give you the price list. We let you shop like on a Sunday. You know what Sundays are like? We people shop on Sunday because there's no salesman to bug you. And we train our salesmen that even if they're with you, that they're not going to bug you. It's not going to be questions like, well, if I do this, will you buy it today? What if I do this, will you buy it today? We want to sell you a car when you want to buy one. We want to sell a car every day, of course, but we're not going to put any pressure on you. We're going to give you a bottom line price in writing. And when we give you that price, we're going to make sure it's low enough to make sure you come back. And a lot of people want to go shop because they see one down the road. They saw one on Auto Trader or in Car City somewhere. So you got to go and look at it. And even if our price isn't the lowest, we're always happy to have you back when you come back and say, you know what, your car wasn't any cheaper than the one down the road, but it was in much better condition. And isn't that more important than just the price alone? Would you pay $500 more for a car that was in very good condition versus one that was in below average condition? Or what about equipment? What if ours had navigation and blind spot and rear camera and theirs didn't? Or what if it was just the fact that ours was better looking? It was a better color, or it had lower miles. A lot of people put the emphasis on miles. Ours has 20,000 miles, and you're looking at one down the road with 35,000 miles that's out of warranty. Those are all things that make up the purchase of a car. And we point all those things out, and then we give you the information, say, why don't you go shop if you're not sure? And that's unheard of in the used car industry or the new car industry because everybody's trained to get your wallet right then the first time because they're afraid they're not going to see you again. That's not going to happen at Frontier Motors. Again, we are the dealer where you come for free advice. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Auf Wiedersehen.
Don't overpay. Come in today. Doing business the old-fashioned way. Frontier. We got the right price. Frontier. We'll treat you mighty nice. Frontier Motors. Low overhead.